promote change by example.
Change by pull rather than push?
Well, not even necessarily by pull, but more by putting it out there, letting people look and judge for themselves whether they see what I'm doing and say, wow, I'd like to try that, or no, that sucks, you know? When people are ready, it's not a sacrifice. It's not a hardship.
What happens when you have a house is it starts getting bigger. You know, you close in the mudroom, and then you put on a garage, and then you put a little addition on for the piano, and next thing you know, what started out as a little 20 by 20 house has turned into a, you know, 24 by 30, 32, which still isn't large.
Part of what my thesis work was on is the difference between needs and wants, in that wants are limitless, and in fact it's part of what, you know, poisons our culture and the way our world evolves. Greed and the whole deal. And yet needs are finite and quite easily met if you really start to think about what is a need. And so you know, this small living is really just an exercise in just what you need. I mean, Jay Schaefer says it great in his design book. It's the idea that if you can take something away from the design and it's still good, then you should remove it. And it's only when you take something away from the design that diminishes it that you should leave it. And with that in mind, his first efforts at making tiny houses were just to keep taking away, till finally had just what was left, which was that high quality core of essential things. I think there's a flexibility in what the right size space is. And this is where I'm very happy to be supportive of people who are exploring that idea. And some people that live in 3,000 square foot houses, you know, the thought of living in a 2,000 square foot house is at least a move in the right direction, you know? And I'm happy to, you know, help them raise questions and explore. You know, Jay's house was too small for me. You know, so it's not just a matter of smaller is better. At some point, you have to come up with what works for you. So yeah, I don't see myself growing out of this space, but I do see this space evolving with my needs. You can create a sense of space when you have small dimensions by having height. And so this ceiling is 10 feet or more tall, and it gives a tremendous feeling of space. And the other thing that gives a feeling of space, of course, is the windows. There are actually 13 windows in this very tiny house. And it's perhaps one of the most expensive elements of the design. And yet the windows connect you. It gives you a feeling like the outside is an extension of the inside. This is a social room. There's a desk here that we use for dining. And of course, we have high-speed internet through one of these little USB connections. So we have high-speed internet out here. And we sit and watch movies here. And then there's a hang-up closet in here. And we keep our broom and cleaner in there. And then we have our propane stove here, which is heats the cabin. And it has a thermostat so we can set it at different temperatures and just minds itself. There's a room for a full-size couch here. We have a love seat. And this is actually a very cool thing. If you think about it very much, you realize this wouldn't fit through the door. This actually comes flat-packed from a company called Home Reserve. A lot of what I was trying to create with this design is a sense of home. So, you know, a real house. And so I actually don't have a lot of built-in things, like a boat. I didn't want that sense of traveling space. I really wanted it to feel like a regular house. So the hardwood floors and nice wall coverings, and we have a shelf that extends around the top that usually is full of yarn projects. And then if you step in this way and point your camera up here, you get a peek at the loft. And that loft has a queen-size bed up there.
I'm coming, wait.
Okay. You want to slip out here. There you go.
Sort of a square dancing thing.
So this end of the cabin is the business end.
You have a pantry here on this wall for supplies and dishes and glasses and cooking things. And then a 4-burner stove and oven here. And when you have to get a good picture of these holders, these are knitted, little felt pot holders. You have to come up with creative ways to store things. The refrigerator goes underneath the sink here, half-size fridge. And this is a boat hot water heater that's instantaneous. So you can take as long a hot shower as you want. You'll never run out of hot water. And one of the differences in my design from some of the smaller cabin designs is that I put a full-size sink in. Because the reality is if you're going to do anything in the kitchen, you really need to have a full-size sink. Got a little pull-out mirror here for shaving. Did you get that? And of course this is one of my design pride and joys here. This ladder exactly fits like that. And again, you can use this. You can use the rest of the cabin when this is down. So it doesn't take up the whole space, which other designs that I've seen have a problem with.
That's true.
In fact, you can put it like this and still use the sink for brushing teeth and all. Of course, you're standing in the bathroom. So that's a full-size 32-inch shower. And then on this side of the bathroom is the toilet. I'm 6'2", and you know, there's room to sit and to move around in bed. When you make a space smaller, you try to increase the amount you spend on the quality of the components. And we've certainly tried to do that with the windows. These are fairly nice windows. Someone can be up here reading or meditating or, you know, listening to music with their headphones or something, and this is a different space than down below.
There's something they call cabin fever.
Part of what makes tiny house living work is the idea that your living space extends to the outside. Yeah, when I start building one of these cabins, and this has happened to me in so many ways throughout my life, the sense of space changes. You know, when you first get the trailer, this is a car trailer, and when it's just laying out there raw in the driveway, and you think, I'm going to put a whole house on this, it looks really small. And you put up the first, you build the deck, and all of a sudden the deck gives it a sense of space, and it starts to feel big. And then of course you put up the walls, and it starts to feel small. Until you get windows in it, and then the windows start to give you this sense of like space because you're looking out through something, you know? And this sense of collapsing and expanding happens in ways you wouldn't always predict. It's like as you get into the final stages, the more functionality you give, the bigger the space gets. So actually, you would think that by putting a couch in, it would get smaller, but it actually gets bigger. Those attributes that make tiny house living work are the same attributes that can heighten the sense of time. And I think time, sometimes time feels like it goes fast when we aren't paying attention, because time seems to slip away from us. It's like zoom, it's gone. Where I think when you're present in the moment, so to speak, and you're you know, intentional, then I guess my feeling is that time doesn't get away from us the same way. You know, we joked earlier about how, you know, is this an exercise or is it my life? And, you know, I think my life is an exercise. And I'm certainly the first one to say this isn't, you know, the only way to, you know, to learn about living. But it's a darn good way. And I think it does encourage you to explore things that are worth exploring. So in that way, yeah, I would promote this to people that are interested in learning about quality of life, you know, ideas and
How long does it take before the initial kind of novelty and the sense of cuteness and all wears off and it gets tedious?
It doesn't wear off. No.
It doesn't wear off.
No, every time I come out here and I step through the door, I still feel that sense that I'm sure you felt when you come into the space and you went, wow, what a cool little house. I still feel that every time I come in. No, and in some ways it's, you know, it's a pride at recognizing that this is right. You know, that this level of living is actually a great thing to have on display for the world to see. And And there's a certain smugness from feeling like, you know, I've done something right here. Change is going to come. Now, if you've grown yourself to choose a lifestyle that works within those coming changes, then the world can be a pretty nice place. I mean, as economics times get tighter, if your living expenses are almost nothing, then it's more likely you can stay alive economically. And as the global warming starts to ratchet up the price of fuel and energy and that whole thing, if you're living in a place that uses almost no fuel and energy, then once again it takes away some of the stress of these changes. I mean, not to be fatalistic about it, but I think there are going to be changes that are going to be very difficult for people that cling to the old paradigm. And it will be a hardship on those people that are forced to live smaller. And so in some ways, I like to think I'm out front going, it's either now or later, and why not try it now?